evening, everybody. How are you doing? Hello, Rodney. How are you? Just the mic.
Yes, good. Hello, Victor. How are you?
Hi, how? I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yeah. Great, thanks. Thanks for the invitation to speak to everybody.
Well, of course. Thank you for giving this talk and for your time. I know you're leaving in 6 hours to Scotland, so this is
That's correct.
even more impressive that you dedicate your time to us. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to
So
it.
guys, as you can see, this talk will be in English. I hope you can understand my Israeli accent, and I hope you can understand Rodney's Irish accent. But I'm sure we will be fine. The main idea here is to see some amazing photos of Ireland, to get to know Ireland through Rodney's eyes. And of course, to see how an international photographer works, a hint, the same as us.
Yes, absolutely.
But still, it's very interesting how people from all over the world work. So I'll just, Rodney, I'll just tell the guys how we met. Some of the people...
Yes.
I see Sharon here and Freddie. They know, they've been to this trip to Slovenia. So, and this is amazing how life, happens, how things happen in life. So we were on our tour to Slovenia with a group, with Piotr, local photographer. And we were shooting somewhere on Lake Bled. Actually, I will change my background photo so you would see. There it is. This is the photo that we're taking maybe 5 minutes before we met.
That's correct.
And I remember Sharon, who is here. She came to me and she said, well, there's a group of Irish photographers and there is an Irish guide and you should talk to him and make talk to him,
a connection,
and do a photography tour in Ireland. And this is exactly what happened. So for me, it's a great pleasure to host you here. For those of you guys who still haven't heard of it, we're doing an amazing photography tour to Ireland with Rodney in this April. So whoever wants to get some details, you can ask me. But today we are here not to talk about the store. We're here to talk about Ireland and the beautiful photos that Rodney has from there. So Rodney, the stage is yours. Feel free to talk about yourself, about Ireland. Looking forward.
Thanks, Victor. Thank you, Victor. So I will. It was great. It was great to meet you in Slovenia on Lake Bled. I think we met quite a few times in different locations. I will do my best with my speech so that everybody can understand me. So if I get faster, please slow me down. So I'm a professional landscape photographer based in Southern Ireland. And I always say to people, being professional doesn't mean I'm any better than anybody else. It basically means I get paid for my services. Just like a professional footballer kicks the ball and gets paid, I get paid for guiding, I get paid for teaching, I get paid for providing tours. So I'm a professional landscape photographer, and I've been taking photographs 16 years. I am completely self-taught. Books, magazines. When I started, there was no YouTube as such. It was early days. And I soaked up as much information as I possibly could through magazines and books. I joined a local camera club and made some friends, and you know, we started going off doing small trips to County Kerry, which is, I'll show you my location on the map in a minute, which is probably an hour and a half from me. So I live in probably, I feel, the most picturesque corner of Ireland. So I will share my screen. And just one second now. So on Google Maps, can you see Google Maps, Victor? Yes. So this is Ireland. And up here we have Northern Ireland. I'm sure you are all aware that, you know, we have 6 counties up here that are governed by the UK. So I live in the Republic, and I live down here in this county. It's called County Cork. County Cork, it's the biggest county in Ireland, and not the most picturesque, because the coastline faces south, and unfortunately, when the sun is due south, it's very high in the sky, and the light is very harsh. So this coastline isn't the best because it has direct sunlight during the day. But in County Kerry, which is the neighbouring county where I do most of my photography, the sun sets. So the sun sets out to the Atlantic. And if I just zoom back out, so we have sunset here. We have sunrise here, sunset here. So I'm very lucky to be living here, and I'm very close to this whole area. The proposed trip is based in this region, and it's actually, the base is out here right on this peninsula, which is the Dingle Peninsula. I've traveled all over Europe, and when I come home, my friends say to me, you know, where do you like to visit? Where is the best place to visit? And I always say Ireland. I always say home. And I would expect that for you guys out in Israel, I would expect you would say the same also, you know. Home is always the best place to photograph. I love to go to Slovenia. I love to go to Norway. I love to go to the UK, but I love coming home. I love shooting at home. So this is the area. So I'm going to show you images from this area. I've acquired, I suppose, it's taken me quite a few years to get a portfolio of images, you know, that I really feel portray Ireland to me, you know, and the power of the ocean, the power of the waves, the power of the weather. You know, we from October to January to February, we get big storms. You know, we get massive storms hitting the coastline. We get the tail end. We get the end of the hurricanes that come from the Caribbean. You know, and we really do get what we call in Ireland battered. If you understand the word battered, it's like, you know, we get beat with the biggest of storms. So I'm quite happy to take questions as we go on. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free. You know, please feel free. You can direct them to Victor, and if Victor wants to come in, there is no problem whatsoever. So how do I photograph? So I would say I have from wide angle to telephoto, and I could use a wide angle, I could use telephoto. I use every millimeter of my lenses for my photography. And it all depends, you know, how on the perspective, the perspective I want to portray. People say to me, what lens will you use? Well, the lens depends on the perspective you want to show. It's like shooting a portrait. You won't use a wide angle lens on a portrait because you'll distort the nose and the face, and your subject won't be very happy with you. The landscape is the same. The lens we choose gives us the perspective, and we must go in with the idea of perspective. When I'm on tours with my clients, they say to me before we jump out of the van, what lens? And I would say it depends on the perspective. Say for instance, your church in Slovenia, Viktor, the one on the hill, St. Thomas. If you shoot that with a wide angle lens, the church is very small. If you go with a mid zoom lens, the church becomes bigger and the background comes closer. So perspective, for me, one of the biggest things in my photography is the perspective. Okay, so I will share a Lightroom portfolio. So, excuse me. Okay. So has anybody been to Ireland? Has anyone been to Dingle, to Southwest Ireland?
Yeah, actually, there was two ladies here in Ballincharon.
Okay.
For I don't know how many times already, but not. I think she never been to Ireland as a photographer. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hopefully she will make it back, and I will be able to guide you to the best places at the best times. So in Dingle, we have these three peaks, and they're called the Three Sisters. So they're very evident all over the peninsula. These three peaks, they're very famous, and they're like a landmark. So my photography here basically was just, the looming cloud over the peaks and the water. Just very, very simple, and the light. We can get some amazing light in Dingle. Take it out. If it's not moving on. Sorry, no, that's not moving on for some reason. There we go. This is one of the islands, so these houses are hostels, and there is no electricity, there is no water, and you can get the boat across and stay overnight as a kind of a retreat. The Blasket Islands, the Great Blasket Islands. And that's the island just there. So the accommodation in Ireland that I've proposed to Viktor is probably a 10-minute walk from here. We're looking right out at this. This island here, we have a name in Ireland, and we call it the Sleeping Giant. So it's like a giant sleeping on his back. There's his head, and there's his belly, and his legs. So everywhere in Ireland, he is very, if you see a picture, it's the Sleeping Giant. Almost like Gulliver's Travels. I know that's not. So in my photography, I love to create motion in the waves. I love to create, using slow shutter speeds. I love to create with the waves. And, it's only me as a photographer. Nobody can see this. It's only me or you as a photographer. We have the imagination to create something as the waves turn. And again, in the background, you can see the island, and this island would feature quite a lot. It's very prominent, you know, and if you're photographing waves like this, it's very important to have something in the background that's very recognizable. If I can just come out at the minute. So for my photography, if you look at the image, I try to tell my clients, you know, break the image down, step it out. So if you look at this image, we have 1 section, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 different layers, if that makes sense. And symmetry. If we can keep symmetry, well, then the image is very easy on the eye, you know. It's very symmetrical. There's nothing out of shape. Think of a letterbox. I always say, if we think of a letterbox, and you're the postman, do you have postmen in Israel? I'm sure you do. So if the postman puts your letter in the letterbox and you look out through the letterbox, you only have a small view. So as a photographer, I'm always trying to create that view. I always want to create, you know, that letterbox where if we keep symmetry, top and bottom, you see these 2 spaces and there? Well, then we create a letterbox and we force the viewer through the letterbox, if that makes sense. So that's my thoughts on composition. For my images, I want the viewer to get very quickly to where I want them to look, basically. You know, and by creating that letterbox, we can create the letterbox through brightness and darkness. Little dark on the top, little dark on the bottom, brighter in the middle. We guide the viewer and quickly. And if we can guide the viewer quickly, our images will have impact. And we all want our images to have impact. You know, let's face it, you know. So that's my thought process as a photographer. Feel free now to ask any questions. For the waves to turn like this, the shutter speed is 1/6 of a second. So it's very important, you know, if you're doing this kind of photography, you will need a neutral density filter. For me, my most used neutral density filter is a little stopper, a 6-stopper. I have screw-on, actually here. I'm off to Scotland tomorrow now. So I have screw-on filters and I have slot-in filters. I use the screw-on filters for bad weather. So I can put the lens hood on, and I use the slot-in filters if the weather's okay. And I would also use a grad on the sky then, you know, as well. So I'm very much into you know, getting my image as right as good as possible in camera. I would be very much I very much want to get the color correct as well. So I always shoot in Kelvin, and I would pick a Kelvin that will give me the color that I'm seeing. Primarily because when I go home to my computer, if the color is correct, you know, I will make sure that I will edit that image. If we have a fantastic sunset, and when I go home and the colors aren't the same, well, there is a tendency to leave those images then, you know. But if you have the color correct, you know, it's a great starting point. For this particular image, I would have made sure that I would get the color in the water correct. If there's a blue sky, I'll make sure I have the blue sky correct. If there's gray clouds, sometimes if your image is too cool, your clouds can go blue, you know? So I'm always looking to get the correct color, if that makes sense. Like Victor, if you look at your image behind you there, that's blue hour, you know, which is perfect. It's perfect because it's blue hour. But sometimes you can get that color in this if you have the wrong white balance, you know? So I work very hard in camera, you know, I work very hard in camera. And is there any questions?
Yep, there is a question here from Imbal. Do you have the green hills landscape shots, and how would you recommend to get them the most interesting shots? I know you have, because I also see it on your.
Do I have the
like green landscape, not only coastline?
Oh yes, absolutely. We have in Killarney, we have landscape and mountains. So I will be showing, this is all coastline. So I will, in Killarney, this is the landscape. So this is lakes and mountains. So approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes from our base by the coast, we have a totally different landscape. We have lakes and mountains. And just to show you the location. Oops. So Killarney. So Killarney is our lake district in Ireland. Killarney, and we have a national park, as you can see here. So this area is amazing. And also this area, it's called the Black Valley. And this is one of my favorite locations in Ireland. The reason it's called the Black Valley is because it was the last place in Ireland to get electricity. 1965. So we have two lake districts. One is here, and the other one is here in County Galway. That's the second one. So we're down here. Is that okay, Victor?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll just go through some of Killarney very quickly.
Actually, yeah. Rodney, there is quite an interesting question by
yes.
She asked about your workflow with the white balance, because as I understand, you work always with a manual white balance. And
yes.
Usually people are used meat also. I mostly work with the auto white balance, and
yes.
If I need, I edit it because we shoot raw. I edited.
Yes.
So what do you think about that?
It can make us lazy. Yeah, I'm always trying to push, you know, I'm always trying to push myself. On the first 2 days of a workshop, I would never speak about white balance. I would say auto. And when my clients are, when they're after 2 days, they're photographing well, then I would introduce white balance. So my starting point on Kelvin would be 6,000. I would set my camera to 6,000 Kelvin, and I would look at the camera to see what the colors are like, if they're a good rendition to what I'm seeing. Blue, so the color blue, if blue has the wrong white balance, you can get different colors. You can get a very light blue. So the next day you're out and you have a blue sky. Go in and start at 5,000, take a shot, go to 6,000, go to 7,000, and go to 8,000. And you will see how the color of blue changes. You know, it won't be very evident when you're out shooting, but if you can get one, what I always say is the dominant color that's in the scene, if you can get the correct white balance for that, all the other colors fall into place, if that makes sense. And I will show you actually how I correct white balance. So I have this prepared actually here for you. So this is a raw file, okay? This is a raw file. And it was shot at 6,700 Kelvin, okay? We'll try auto. It has warmed it slightly. Now, always when I edit, I always go in and I always look. The first thing before I edit any picture, I go back and I look at the white balance. So I come down to vibrance and I push it to 100. I come to saturation and I push it to 100. Now, there is a dominant blue cast. Okay. Now that blue cast wasn't evident until we put the saturation and the vibrance up. So I want to have less blue and more warmth. I want to have an even spread. The problem would be if we don't correct the white balance and we go to edit, we can introduce a color cast because we have a lot of blue. So if we change this ever so slightly and introduce less blue, can you see now we have the color of the water coming through? We have less blue, so the blue was gone from here. The blue was gone from there. And if we reset, we now have a very neutral image. So the colors are very, very neutral. The cloud is gray, the water is natural, and this was before. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So I always try and set a neutral white balance, and I always edit from there. Now, you might say as a photographer, you prefer the color. That's good. That's perfect. That's no problem. You can introduce a little bit of back if you want, you know. But I always look. This one here is where I want to be when I'm taking my photograph by adjusting the Kelvin. Okay.
Yeah. All right. No, that's actually this technique. I've seen it, but I never used it. Maybe I'll try it when editing.
Yeah, and like maybe you might like to introduce a little bit back. You know, it's not at the end of the day. Your photography is for you. You know, it's what colors you like as a photographer. It's not what I say. I'm just a guide and an instructor who's there to help you technically, but aesthetically, it's what you like as a photographer. That's what's most important, you know. Yeah. Okay, so I will never tell anybody I don't like your photograph. Okay.
Let's see some more photos, amazing photos.
Yes.
Of Ireland.
Okay, so I hope that helps.
Yep.
So we'll just go to Killarney for some landscape. Again, if there's any questions. So this shot would be handheld 70 to 200. handheld, just the ships, lovely ships. I like to incorporate, you know, shapes in my image. Shape of the tree. Mountains. This is the Black Valley now. This is the last place in Ireland to get electricity. You can just see the road here. Mountains again. We don't get much snow in Ireland, but when we do, everybody goes out to try and photograph it. This is in the Black Valley, just morning light, the light coming through the trees in the background, you know. Just actually, it was hit forward actually, morning light. Again, there is a road. I like to shoot in strong light as well, you know. So that's where the telephoto lens comes into its own, you know, shooting in strong light. You can keep under the sun. This is an old house that I just did some star trail on, nothing major. So this is Killarney, the lakes and mountains in Killarney. Killarney again, just the mountains and the river. Bad weather. Telephoto lens. Again, bad weather. Just I liked the stream flowing down, and you know, just very, very simple image.
So Rodney, from what I see, maybe I have an interesting question for you.
Yes.
When you travel, when you go like for yourself, not in a workshop, how do you travel? How do you shoot? Do you go like intentionally to some place, or you just drive?
Yes.
Stop?
No, I look at the weather. So I look at the weather and I see the conditions, and like I know the coastline. I know where to be. Like obviously, it's very important at the beaches that you're there at high tides. So some beaches are better at high tides. Some beaches are better at low tides. If you have, say, showers, you know, like showery weather, Killarney is a great place to be because you have showers over the mountains. You know, you can get dramatic weather. It all depends like that, really. You know, it would be very much dependent on weather. The weather is the first thing that I look at. You know, if we have blue skies and it's still, then you choose the lakes in Killarney because they'll be nice and calm. If you have rough weather and high tides, you go by the sea. You know, so it's very much, and obviously the direction of the winds. You know, direction of the winds is very important. I have photographed in storms in Kerry, and I have actually photographed from my car, believe it or not. You know, what I have here is I have 800 pictures, which is one day, and I'll just go through it very quickly. I'll pull. So this is one day in Dingle. Okay, one day. And you can see how the weather changes and the opportunity. See the one beach there? See how it changes? So all the time, these are all unedited now. There's nothing edited here. Out to the waves. No edits in these. So this is one day in Dingle. It's an amazing place, you know, and anywhere in Ireland,
Looks great. By the way, there's Gila here is asking an important question. It's written in Hebrew, but
okay.
What season are the photos that you show? Like
most of my photos would be October to April. October to April, probably September to April.
So is there anything special during our trip, like April?
April.
I know the answer, but you know, people are asking.
Yes, I suppose we could, the whole thing really is special. You know, we could get waves. You know, it depends on the weather. We could get we're going early April, so the weather will still be. It won't be that warm. You know, Ireland doesn't get that warm, by the way. We're probably looking at 15 degrees in April, I'd say, if we're lucky. You know, sunset. Well, I don't know what time sunrise is. From our base, really, I suppose we will choose where we will go. So we have options of going to Killarney, or we have options of staying on the coast. We also have options of going on little hikes that give fantastic vantage points. We can do long exposures, we can do reflections, we can also do some night photography, because we are in the darkest corner of Ireland, you know, so it's very good for astrophotography if we get clear skies, and it will be in April because we'll have it's Milky Way season, April and May, you know, May, June. So what's special about Ireland? I suppose we are known for our Guinness, you know. I suppose for me, all my tours, as I said to you, they're very much a cultural experience as well as the photography, you know. So it's very important to combine those two things as well, you know. So in the evenings, you know, you'll have nice places to eat. We won't, like, for people visiting Ireland, this is specifically photography, because once we land in Dublin, we'll be going to the southwest. Killarney, if anyone wants to Google Killarney is the biggest tourist area in Ireland. So it's quite possible, Victor, that if you had somebody, you know, if we were going to Killarney to photograph, and somebody didn't want to partake in the photography, you know, they could spend a few hours in Killarney. You know, there are things like that we could incorporate, you know. Really, it's the coastline. The coastline is amazing. The coastline in Dingle is amazing, you know. I'll go back to it here.
Oh, there is a question which I'm not sure I understand, Amit. Are those areas in the southwest are on AO and B? What is AO and B? Sorry for the...
AO and B.
Amit?
I don't know. AO and B.
Maybe, Amit, could you join the mic, please, and explain your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
An area of outstanding natural beauty.
All of Ireland. Like this photograph, this photograph here is a drone photograph. So that's another thing that you can bring, you know. You can bring your drones, you know, as well. There are no problems flying in Ireland with drones. One thing we do have actually is we have the Skelligs. If you've heard of the Skelligs, so we have the Skellig Islands. And they are they're very difficult to. Have you watched Star Wars? Any Star Wars fans?
Of course.
Yes. So we had Star Wars was made in Dingle. It was the second last one was filmed in Dingle. Skellig. And I'll show you these two islands. Images. So do you recognize, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, so these islands are the Skellig Islands. And it would be possible to do a day trip, but it would all depend on weather. And they are quite expensive to get out to. It could possibly be €90 per person to get out there. They're UNESCO, you know, and when you get out there, these are the Skelligs. So that's the mainland there behind. And one of the last Star Wars was filmed here. So it would be a boat trip. I think the boat trip is about an hour, and I think you get 2.5 hours on the island, and you get the boat back. So it might be possible that if it's something the group wanted to do, we could do that, you know. But it's not guaranteed now. It's they only allow so many people on the island, and it's not for you can see the Star Wars here, look. It's not for the faint-hearted.
Chewbacca.
It's not for the faint-hearted because there are steps up, you know. You can see the landing there behind. And there are steps up to the top. So it's something we could look into. It's probably the most famous thing we have in the southwest of Ireland are the Skellig Islands. You can see Star Wars there. Photography-wise, it would be a nice day out. You might get some nice photographs on the boat going out. You can see there the UNESCO. But it might be something that would be possible at the end of the tour. For me, I would be suggesting to you get all your photography done, you know. And if you had a spare day, you know, it would be a nice addition to the tour, you know.
Yeah.
However you feel, you know.
It will probably not be the core thing that will.
No, it wouldn't. But it could be an addition. Those islands are there. 1 second, I'll balance. That's the islands. There, look. They're the two islands. Yeah. They're the two islands.
Okay. We'll have to see how it goes.
Are we planning to go to the cliffs of Moher?
Cliffs of Moher. We could do a day, yes. So just to show you, the cliffs of Moher are here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could do a day, Victor, but it would be an hour and a half. It would be a 2.5 hour drive.
Where are we going to be sleeping? Where is the hotel? In Dingle itself?
This area, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it would be possibly, we could do it if Victor wants to incorporate it. I'll help him, you know, by all means. You know, the days will be quite long, you know.
Yeah, so the idea for our trip is to be very spontaneous and decide each evening.
Yeah.
Each day what we're going to do. Exactly.
Depends on the weather, and Rodney will be the master of all the locations, and we'll decide where we're going. All right, so guys, I think it's a good idea to first of all to let you ask some questions from Rodney about his workflow, about his, I don't know, gear, about Ireland, not necessarily about our trip, because those who go to our trip will know the answers eventually. So you have an opportunity to ask him some.
Your pictures look like they're almost black and white, but they're not, right? Some of them, the ones that you did one day in, they look like they were filmed, they were taken in black and white, or you turn down the saturation because it really looks very even.
Yes, I suppose can we just go back and look at that there 1 second now, just to
share it again.
Yeah, 1 second. Where can I share from? Share screen, desktop, and sorry, no.
With Lightroom.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone missing. Lightroom is gone to sleep.
You're excited, Rodney.
Okay. So, are we talking about these ones? 1 second.
The day, the ones that you did the day. No, there was the beach.
Yes.
And Satellite. Victor
yes,
one day. It was Victor one day.
They're all raw files.
Yeah.
They're all raw files. So they're all raw files.
Oh,
so
it
look
looks
at
like it's black and white, but it's not.
Yeah, look. Yeah. So that would be me, how I would expose the scene, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You know, so if I was to underexpose the scene slightly, you know, it comes like that. So that's how I like to expose my scenes. So if I was to say,
when you take the shot.
I do, yes. I like the lines, and I like the lightness of the scene. You know, I liked the lightness of the scene, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, also I'm getting as much information as possible. You know, no dark shadows. Specifically, this would have been shot on micro four thirds. So I have two camera systems. I have micro four thirds Olympus, and as you know, the Olympus sensor is very, very small. So I need to get my exposure very, very good, because there is no latitude in highlights and there is no latitude in shadows because of all the noise, and I won't reclaim the highlights, you know. I also use the Fuji. I have a Fuji GFX, which is the other end, much bigger sensor. And that has lots of latitude. So I tend to underexpose that rather than, you know, expose to the right for the Olympus, if that makes sense. Like the waves, again, if you look at the histogram, you know, there are no blacks and there are no whites, but a little bit of dehaze and the picture comes to life, you know? If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Guys, do you have any, if you have if you want to ask the question in Hebrew, no problem, I will translate it to Rodney. אם למישהו יש שאלות, אז מוזמנים גם לשאול בעברית, אני אתרגם, חברים.
If I was to go back and talk about composition, okay? If I was to go back and talk about composition, so composition, this is another location that's close by. So when I talk about composition, I use in my images, I love shape. So I love to have shapes in my image. I like my images to flow. And I would say to people, when we're looking out at a scene, you know, we must examine the scene and bring the strongest part of that scene to the viewer. So primarily, the strongest part of this scene is this area. Okay, so this is what I would call primary. I would call the C-stack secondary, and everything else complementary. That's how I look at things. I would say to you, you know, if you're taking a photograph, I'd say, okay, Victor, you know, show me, what are you showing me? And you would say, okay, this is the area I like the most. And if you like that area the most, well, then it must be the strongest area in contrast. It must be the strongest area in structure, and everything else falls off around it.
It looks almost like it was done in black and white. That's what
this is black and white. This is black and white.
Okay, yeah. I thought my eyes were.
Yeah. No, your eyes are perfect. So if we talk about shape, okay, we have the shape of the mountain in the background. We have the shape of the cloud on top. We have the line of the wave. we have the shape of the rock, the land coming down. So all I see in shapes. I don't see anything else. I see in shapes, and I see light and shadow.
Mhm.
Again, if I was to look at this wave, it's all, for me, it's all about the shape. It's about the shape of the island in the background coming through, you know? Do you see this space on top, this empty space? It's almost mirroring the space of the wave. It's symmetrical. It's symmetrical without you even realizing it's symmetrical, if that makes sense. You know, I'm trying to get you to look in. So if the balance was different here, and I'll change that. Oh, I can't. Sorry, that file isn't. It's not on.
You don't have the probably the
hard disk. Yeah. No, it's in another folder. Yeah. Again, if I was to talk about symmetry, right? This is very symmetrical. So we have this space, and this space. It's almost like you can get around nice and easy. If we look at these, the three peaks are very central, but left and right, we have, do you see this little mound, this little nodule? It's that space and that space. It is very, very symmetrical. If that one wasn't there, it would leave an empty space, if you know what I'm saying. It would change the scene totally, because that one is balanced with that one. So I tend to just talk about balance. I don't work on rules. Rules, I hate rules. Rules are there to be broken, you know. I don't like rules at all. Rules are a great guide, but they're there to be broken, you know. This one again, it's very symmetrical. If we were to look at this area, it's almost a triangle, you know, cut in half. And we have different shades. We have different shades of green. We have the cloud. I have a little vignette around the outside so that you don't even realize that I'm taking you into the middle, you know, and this is where I want you to be. And I have this darkened ever so slightly and gradually to get the viewer in here. That's my that's my workflow, you know. This is the place up behind us that we can reach in an hour. And this is amazing. You know, again, it's just all about shape. You know, I just see shape. You know, if that makes sense. That's how and this one again is very strong graphic shapes. And in the clouds, it's very contrasty, but if you look, we have little clouds. And those little clouds are very, very important. If you can just see them, because they break up the sky. And this space and that space, here and here. Okay. Hope that helps. Stop share.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, what do you think? Any questions? In Bali, I see that you've been to Ireland, but very long time ago.
I'm in Val. I've been to Ireland about 19 to 20 years ago. I have a family around.
Time to come back.
Yeah, I have a family around Dingle, so like.
Oh wow!
I should pay them a visit, but yes, thank you. Yeah. It was very interesting. I would love to see more of your artwork. So maybe you can link in the chat, Instagram or something like that, we can take a good look. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sending you right now Rodney's website on the chat. So just open it before the Zoom talk.
Most of my website, unfortunately, is European, but I will be updating the Irish galleries. Yeah.
Well, your European photos are great also, so...
Thank you.
All right, guys. So I would like to say a big thank you to Rodney for giving this talk and making. I know you're pretty tired and you need to go to sleep before your ride. Are you driving or you're flying there? Probably.
Yes. No, I'm driving. I'm driving in my van. I think at 1 a.m. I leave at 1 a.m. So I go to Scotland. So I must travel to the north of Ireland to get to Belfast to get the ferry.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I will be in Northumberland.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And hopefully next week I will be in Lewis and Harris.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So really looking forward to that.
And
I remember
looking forward to seeing you in April. I've registered already. I'm coming.
Fantastic. I think I gave you my card actually in Bled.
Yeah. I put the two of you together.
She's the architect of she's the architect.
Thanks so much.
I've been to Ireland a lot, but not I've never really I was one day in Dingle. I was at the Ring of Kerry in that area.
Yes.
It was mostly in the east-west, close to the south of Dublin. That
south
was the area that was more.
Wicklow, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Wicklow. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, guys. So again, thank you, Rodney, and thank you all for coming. I linked the link to our trip. If you are interested, or if you have any questions, you can call me. You have my number, most of you, I guess. And at this stage, I'll say good night, and thank you very much all for coming.
Laila Tov. You can say it in Hebrew.
Rodney. Yeah, Rodney.
Laila Tov. Good night.
Laila Tov. Toda v'Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. Right,
what do we say? Yeah, good. It's just good night in Ireland. Yeah, good night.
Yeah. All right.
Brilliant, Vector. Yeah.
How do you say it in Irish? In Gaelic?
Osig. Good night. You have me there now. we have a lot of sayings. Good night. You have me there now. Iha is night. O-I-C-H. Good. You have me there now. I'm sorry. Okay. My brain is fried.
You have homework until April to tell us how you say it.
Oh yeah. So one of the sayings we have is it's good luck. It says, may the road rise before you. So it's gun Irie on boher lash. So may the road rise before you all.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll remember that.
Thank you.
It's good luck. It's a good luck for you all.
Thank you so much, Rodney. All right. Good luck. Good night.
Good night. Nice to meet you all. Bye-bye. See you, Victor.
Looking forward to April. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.